Hello, and welcome to MouseKast. It's the podcast where the mind meets the magic. Hey, it's Megan and I tonight. It's just the dynamic duo, the travel agency Trouble Twins, coming at you tonight for MouseKast 101. So here we are. We are in our first episode of our second century of podcast episodes. So, Megan, how are you? The first and foremost thing, of course, is, Megan, did you survive Thanksgiving?
We did, just barely, eked by. Man, having little kids at home for 10 days or 12, I don't even know. It felt like a really long time. But they're back at school. How was your break, Chuck? How was Thanksgiving?
It was great. It was great. In fact, we've got some folks that are joining us from Hollywood Studios. Hey, how are you? I bet you that is Matt from our fellow co-host Matt there, who is joining us. He is, I think, at Fantasmic right now, and so joining us over there. And then we also have another that is joining us as well. So thanks all for joining us here tonight. So tonight we are talking about MouseKast 101, and we're not necessarily talking about, like Class 101. We're talking actually about our FAQs. And so, I'm a travel planner. Megan is a travel planner. And so I would say, Megan, you get just a few questions.
Only a few.
Only a few when it comes to, and Matt says, yes, he is at Hollywood Studios right now.
We are jealous, Matt.
We are jealous, Matt, but we're thrilled that you're able to join us by chat. So tonight we thought what we would do is share some of our FAQs of what are the most frequently asked questions that we get from our travel clients looking to go to Walt Disney World, maybe Disneyland, Universal Studios, that kind of thing. And so we wanted to share that with you. If you have questions, be sure to share out as well and post in the chat, and we'll answer them right here, right now, here on MouseKast. So, Megan, I'll let you start off with your number one FAQ that you get most often.
The number one question that I get asked is, do I need the park hopper, or do I want the park? People phrase it, do I want the park hopper? My answer to that is yes, you want the park hopper, but do you need the park hopper? Maybe. It kind of depends. I think keeping with a base ticket or a one park per day simplifies things for a lot of people. It's, okay, this day we're doing this park. You know exactly where you're going every day, and you kind of level it up in the complication if you start park hopping. But I also think something to consider when you're thinking about your days is, and especially if you have kids. If you have kids, Epcot is always the example park that I use. Epcot's probably not going to be young kids' favorite park. There are exceptions. There's lots to do for kids in Epcot. We've talked about them in previous episodes, but it doesn't tend to be the favorite. However, if you have Frozen fans, at some point later in your trip, your child may look at you and go, Mommy, I want to go back and see Anna and Elsa again, or I want to go ride the Frozen ride again. And Epcot's your only choice. And if you don't have park hopper and you've already been to Epcot, your Epcot day is gone. And if you don't want to spend another whole day there, you need park hopper for that flexibility. So I do think that park hopping also allows for that flexibility. Hey, Caleb. That is kind of nice if you know that you're maybe want to go back to a specific park to experience something you missed the first time or do again. If a ride goes down, like if Rise of the Resistance is down for most of a day and you miss it on your Hollywood Studios day, a park hopper means you can go back and try again later in your trip. So lots to consider when thinking about park hopper. Chuck, what do you think about the park hopper?
I was going to say, I have to agree. I generally recommend, for my clients to have park hopping tickets. And by the way, when we talk about park hopper, we're not just talking about Disney park hopper tickets. Same thing applies over at Universal, because you're going to want, and in fact, at Universal, you must have that, what they call Park to Park, because if you are interested in riding the Hogwarts Express, you have to have that ticket to ride. You are not able to ride the Hogwarts Express without a Universal Park-to-Park ticket, because you are literally going from Universal Studios Orlando over to Islands of Adventure, or vice versa, depending on which direction you're going. But in general, Let's see here. We have one who said that this Matt who said we're only doing 4 days, but we did the park hopper, especially now with Animal Kingdom closing early. We want to go to another park at night. Matt, that's a great point that you bring up, especially this time of year. It's December. It's at 8:30 now Eastern time that we're doing this show, and the sun's already been down for 3 hours. So Animal Kingdom closed something like at least 2.5 to 3 hours ago. Animal Kingdom closes very, very early. So if you were stuck with a 1 day, one park, it's 5:30, 6 o'clock, and you're done. So having that park hopper allows you to go to Magic Kingdom, go to Epcot, where at least you're open until 9 o'clock, if not later. If you happen, again, by the way, staying at Deluxe, that you get those late hours where next thing you know, you could be up till 11 o'clock at night or something like that. So I always recommend park hopper. Yes, it's an extra cost, but I think it's worth it because it opens up. You don't feel like you're stuck in a park that entire time. Plus, you have the ability, which I'm going to get to one of my topics here in my common questions in a minute. But if you're staying on property, and especially Megan, to your point, if you've got little ones, you're probably hopefully staying on property and staying maybe at a deluxe resort. And the reason being is that location means everything, and it's easy access in and out. You can get back to your resort very easily. And then you can crash, and then you're not necessarily, I'm heading back to the same park. I can go to do something new. So you turn yourself into, okay, I'm going to do Magic Kingdom. I'm going to get a full day in at Magic Kingdom, but it might not be all day at the Magic Kingdom, and allows your party time to rest, refresh, enjoy the pool, especially summertime, enjoy the pool, things like that. So I really strongly recommend park hoppers. So for the folks out there, share out in the chat what you think, if you like having park hoppers or if you're a 1 day, one park person. In the meantime, so my top question that I get all the time, and again, this is another one we've talked about in a previous MouseKast episode, is what's the best time of year to go to Walt Disney World or Universal? It seems like there's always this, and the point behind the question is, I want to go when it's not crowded. Not crowded is somewhat of a foreign concept these days. So Danny says, by the way, we generally don't park hop with family trips, but he does on his solo trips. And Danny, that's an interesting observation that you bring on that. So with the family, you're going to keep everybody together in one park. I guess that's also a way to help keep everybody contained. But on solo trips, of course, it makes great sense to park hop as well. So to answer the question, when is the best time of year to go to Walt Disney World or Universal? The real answer is the best time of year to go is when you want to go and when you can go. There's an assumption. Oh, we know that, again, you can see the Christmas tree in the background here. The holiday times are very, very busy. Like right now, not too terrible. Now, a couple of weeks from now, as we get closer to Christmas and that Christmas over New Year's break in that last week of December, yeah, it's going to be very, very busy, but not insane. It'll be busy, honestly, but not insane.
The last couple of years, I think the holidays haven't been as bad as they used to.
They have not, and that's where I was kind of getting to. It's busy, but not insane. The original thought was, okay, I don't even want to think about going between Christmas and New Year's because it's going to be totally crazy, packed of people. I won't be able to do anything. That's really not the case anymore. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's busy. I don't want to give an incorrect impression. It is a busy time of year, but it's not as nuts as maybe it used to be in years past. And I think that's because folks have started to get the idea, oh, well, I don't want to do during that week because it's going to be crazy. So they'll avoid it and then nobody shows up. And so it's not as bad as it used to be. The other time that you get a lot of people who kind of go, I don't know, is, of course, the dead of summer. In Florida, you may have heard this, that it gets warm. So, I've just a skosh warm in Florida and just a wee bit humid. I've been to Walt Disney World in June, July, plenty of times, August, plenty of times. And yeah, it's hot. But here's the deal, though. You're able to, and again, this is back to staying on property, if you do that, you're able to utilize the pool. You're able to go back and take breaks and find a way to kind of beat the heat by not being in the heat for that really hot part of the day from 11 to like 4 or 5. And so that's another great way to think about, when do you want to go? Because the crowds aren't as bad over the summer. Again, it's somewhat busy, nowhere near as busy as you'll see. Things like spring break and Thanksgiving break are really busy. So, what do you think, Megan? What kind of time frames are you generally kind of gravitate to?
I agree with you. Whenever you can go, and
go.
what works for you and your schedule, go. Now, if you have flexibility, am I gonna recommend July and August? No, because it's so hot. Kind of like
it is hot.
Kind of like with Danny and the park hopping. Summer family trips for me are a no-go. Even with the pool, I have very littles. My kids are both 4 right now, and my patience being out in that heat is not as great when dealing with them. So their meltdowns. So you also kind of have to know your own temperament. I can handle their meltdowns if I'm also not having a meltdown, like literally melting down in 100-degree heat. So we try to avoid the family trips, but I'll do a solo trip in July and August if that's when it's convenient for me to go, because I know all I have to do is take care of myself. People still come and talk to me about, oh, we've heard that October is not busy. Y'all, October is one of the busiest months at Disney now, because first of all, 20 years ago, everybody got on the very first version of every internet platform and went, hey, nobody goes to Disney in October. And then everybody started going to Disney in October. The Halloween party took off. And that,
I was going to say, and then there are these things called parties.
The parties took off. Then you got fall break for people. You've got, the end of October, really the first week in November, I guess, is like the Jersey break. I know
it's called Jersey Week. Yep.
And so that fall period of October, if you're looking for weather tends to be really great in October. It's still going to be warm, but it's not August. Crowd-wise,
you do run the risk of rain. That's the only issue with October, and so into September and October. September 10th officially is the height of hurricane season, and so while you're past the peak, you do run the risk.
And then I just love the holidays. If you can go to Disney during the holiday season, do it. It's my absolute favorite time of year to be down.
Absolutely. I mean, again, you can see, behind me here, we've got the Christmas tree decorations and all that kind of stuff. This pales in comparison to what you see at Disney. If you ever have the chance to see holiday decor down at Walt Disney World and Universal, I mean, just nobody does it like they do. It's just unreal.
Even if you're not going into the parks, even resort hopping to look at the decorations, whether it's Grand Floridian or the Contemporary or Yacht and Beach Club, Wilderness Lodge, I mean, the resorts look absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, so Tom says, worst mistake I ever made was going to Disney in September 2023. No hurricane, but tornado warnings every day. And so, you do have to deal with that in September. But, you just know that you might run the risk. And then Danny says, snow on Main Street is the best. Okay, funny story. I know exactly what you're talking about. So my very first half marathon that I did in 2010, of course, you're having to get started there in an Epcot parking lot at 2:33 in the morning. And, they've got all this entertainment going on and everything like that, trying to get people all jazzed up. And the Green Army men were going, look at this, the Disney Imagineers are making it snow. Oh, no, wait, that's real snow. So, here we are, we're doing marathon weekend and it's snowing in Florida. So, yes, I know exactly what you mean about snow on Main Street being the best. Of course, the snow on Main Street is fake snow. This was the real thing, but it was still amazing to see snow and real snow at Disney. So let's see here. So the next one that I get a lot, and we've kind of already touched on it, is should I stay on property or off property? And again, I'm pretty much always recommending, if you can, stay on property. It's all about location, location, location. And to be honest, yes, you could find a little bit of a less expensive lodging, and I'm thinking here values compared to off property. You could find something more inexpensive than the values, but is it really worth it? Think about all the time that you are expending, going to and from the parks. And again, especially like Megan and her family, little ones, that's a lot of time that you're eating up. And I don't know that's maybe necessarily best time used. Being close, and it's worth thinking about staying, at a moderate, and again, maybe if you can, stay at a deluxe. The other benefit about those deluxe is you get those late hours, and those can be big deals where you're getting, sometimes a couple of extra hours a night, not every night, but a couple of nights a week, where you're getting a few extra hours at night, and man, do those crowds go way down, and I mean way down.
And even if you're not at a deluxe, if you're on property, you're getting that extra half hour in the morning.
That's
correct. It doesn't
correct.
sound like much. When Disney announced that they were going from one park for an hour extra in the morning to everything's open a half an hour, everyone was like 30 minutes. 30 minutes is nothing. 30 minutes is a lot. You can get a lot done in 30 minutes. Hey,
yeah,
Mark.
you can. And well, here's the thing is that it just gets you started. And so, my wife, who was an amazing Disney planner, she talks about, with that half hour that you get, and then the hour after that, it's kind of like that golden 90 minutes that, if you plan right, you can get a lot done in those 90 minutes. You really can. Before the majority of the crowd really starts to get going, you've got the families with especially younger kids who they've gotten up, they've gotten their breakfast, they've gotten in. And so, by the time we get to 10 o'clock now or 11 o'clock, we're starting to see, crowd levels starting to really, pop up. You've already hit the majority of, or at least hopefully, a fair amount of what you wanted to do for your half day in, say, the Magic Kingdom. You're going back to your resort, chilling out the pool for a little bit and everything like that. And then you're park hopping over to Hollywood Studios or Epcot or somewhere else to enjoy the evening. And then another day you might do it in reverse and start off at, say, Animal Kingdom in the morning, go to your resort nearby, rest, relax, and then go out to enjoy the Magic Kingdom at night. And Mark actually, to that point, says, for those of us that like to sleep in, what is this sleep in thing you talk about, Mark? I'm not sure. He says he misses the late night extended hours that they used to have, and they still do have them, but they are available for deluxe guests. And like I said, usually it's extra hour, sometimes extra couple of hours that are available. So for me, I think it's definitely worth it to be on property. You're also staying inside the bubble, and we've talked about being in the bubble. You're just in that magic the whole time, and you're able to experience it. You don't have to worry about taking your car, finding an Uber, finding the weird hotel shuttle from somewhere else. So just having access to all of that, it just makes it. That's what makes Walt Disney World compare it to a cruise on land. Everything is taken care of for you. Yes, minus food if you have unless you have the dining plan, but really everything's all right there.
If you stay on property.
Yeah, if you stay on property. Yeah, I mean, if you stay on property, everything's right there. It's almost like a cruise on land, and so it makes it very, very easy. So,
because there are some Disney Springs area hotels, there's some ones that are close to Disney. And the price tag of the hotel, the free breakfast, some of them have free like appetizers and drinks at dinner and stuff, have become really, really popular. And they do have the free shuttles to the parks. If you are taking advantage of a shuttle from a third-party resort onto Disney property and you're wanting those breaks in the middle of the day, not only is it more time because of the distance, it's more time because those shuttles do not typically run as frequently as the Disney buses. And so you're also going to wait longer for a shuttle to get back to the hotel and longer for a shuttle to get back to the parks. It eats up. And then you spend all this money on tickets and on going on vacation, and how much of your time was actually spent in the parks doing all the things instead of sitting on a piece of transportation one way or the other.
Because some of those shuttles, by the way, they go only like to the TTC and that's it. And so then, you have to go and play the bounce game. I got to go to the TTC, then get either to the MK or go to the Epcot or get another bus to go to the studios or something like that. So, for me, I generally recommend to all of my travel clients, if there's any way you can do it, stay on property. You will have a much more enjoyable experience staying on property. All right, Megan, what's your next FAQ?
So one of the questions that I get asked a lot behind, where should I eat? And we've done so many episodes where we talk about food. I want to talk about where you should eat. There are a million different places on property you could eat, shouldn't eat, all the things. But followed closely by that is, when should we eat? because almost all of my clients, whether they're on the dining plan or not, they're going to do at least 1 or 2 sit down meals during the time that they're there. So a lot of times my clients like breakfast meals. I like breakfast meals too at Disney. But if you are rope dropping, breakfast is kind of it's difficult because the resort dining does not open until 7 a.m. Well, if Magic Kingdom's opening to me at 7:30, by 7, I'm already there. So I've left before breakfast is even available. What do you do for breakfast? When do you eat breakfast? If you're rope dropping and you're putting in like an 8 a.m. dining reservation, I'd say you're wasting your rope drop. You might as well wait because you're not spending that time knocking out some things with short lines. You're going to eat breakfast while everybody else gets there. And then by the time you get in line, all the public's in and everybody else is already in line too. I think, first of all, what I tell my clients, if you're rope dropping, have something in the room with you that you can eat on your way out the door that'll at least tide you over until you get through the first half hour in the park, or until you can hit the Starbucks because they're going to be open when even before the park itself is open. Starbucks is always open. You can always get in that.
And I'm gonna tell you what, I just don't know. I don't know if it's just me, but there ain't no better Starbucks than a Disney Starbucks. I mean, I know that it's all the same stuff, but it just seems like it's just better at Disney.
No, it tastes better. It tastes better. Starbucks tastes better at Disney, 100%. So definitely have a plan there if you are going to rope drop for what you're going to eat. And especially, again, if you have kids and like my son, he gets hangry. He has to eat in the morning. I can't just say, oh, you got to wait a couple hours. Yeah, that's not going to fly. We are all going to be miserable. If you are rope dropping and you want a sit down, I'm going to say late breakfast edging into lunch. Do like a 10, 10:30, even a 10:45. Roll into lunch. If you're in a buffet and you get in there during breakfast and it rolls to lunch, you're going to get 2 different meals served to you that you can eat from the buffet, like at Crystal Palace at Magic Kingdom. So the early breakfasts, if you are on property and if you are rope dropping and trying to take advantage of that first half hour, you don't want your breakfast at 8 a.m. That's just, my thought.
Yeah, and I have to I'm going to dovetail on top of that, and this is where I'm going to talk about lunch, because I think lunch is kind of the secret sauce here, where you're able to experience, several restaurants. There are a lot of restaurants that don't have a breakfast option, but you want to be able to experience some of these restaurants. The lunch price is oftentimes less than the dinner price, but the food is usually the same thing, maybe smaller portions, but generally the same. So lunch, I think, is sometimes really overlooked. Everybody goes, okay, I'm just going to quick service lunch and I'll do a big dinner later on. Stop and think about lunch, because here's the other bit to this. When you're in the midst of the park and you're touring around, and especially in the summer, there is nothing better than sitting down at a table where you've got a server who's taking care of you in a cool, air-conditioned restaurant, enjoying drinks and enjoying a leisurely lunch. You're not in, a quick service and everybody's around you and there's buzz and hustle and everything like that. That's not dissing the quick service. Please, I'm not dissing the quick service, but that's just quick service. It's no different than going to the McDonald's in the corner. I mean, there's just buzz and chaos. It's a little different when you're in a sit down and you can take your time and you can relax. It really does make a difference and allows you just to kind of chill, refresh, relax, and then head back out, into the hustle and bustle of the parks and everything like that. So I really, when people talk to me about dining, I'm like, don't discount lunch, because that's a great time to experience restaurants. Mark says, for me though, a heavy lunch makes the rest of the afternoon miserable in the heat. He prefers a light lunch. Well, that's possible. I might argue, think about a late lunch. Lunch usually kind of goes till somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3-ish. Some restaurants maybe 4-ish. Maybe think about a late lunch so that you have the opportunity to experience this at a lunch price. And also, by the way, don't forget the lounges. The lounges are a great way to get some similar cuisine and dining from the main restaurant, but you can do so in a lounge. All right, let's see here. I think I'm up next. So the next one that I want to look at, Mark says that's true. See, there you go. The next one that I get a lot is, and especially this comes from generally from first or second timers. How many days do I need? How long should I plan to be there? Because I want to get to everything, and that's mistake number one. Walt Disney World and Universal to a lesser extent. Universal is not as big as Walt Disney World, but the point here is still the same. Walt Disney World is the size of San Francisco, the city, twice the size of the island of Manhattan. It's really big. There's a lot to do. You won't get to everything in a week. You won't get to everything in 2 weeks. You won't get to everything in 3 weeks. You won't get to everything in a month or two. I mean, in all seriousness, I have been to Walt Disney World's 30 odd times. I still haven't done everything. So it's okay. I generally say if you're kind of your first timer, to get a good feel for everything, a week is usually a good time, anywhere from maybe 6 to 8 days, somewhere in that vicinity. By the way, Mark says a light lunch doesn't mean it has to be quick service. There are plenty of light lunches at sit-down restaurants. And Mark, you're right. You are correct. There are light lunch can be at a sit-down restaurant. They're great light lunch options. The Plaza, Magic Kingdom, I'm talking about you especially. So, yeah, I would say 6 to 8. That gives you, at least the opportunity, especially if you're park hopping, which we talked about park hopping earlier. We generally recommend that. If you're park hopping, it gives you at least 2 good opportunities for each park throughout the period. If there is one particular park that doesn't resonate to you as much, again, to Megan, your point that you've got smaller kids, maybe Epcot is not necessarily the place for you, or you're not really into animals, so Animal Kingdom might not be your cup of tea. That maybe you just do a morning at Animal Kingdom and then that'll be it. But 6 to 8 days, 6 days, I think is initially a good opportunity to get and have time to experience the parks. Mark says after 7 consecutive days, your feet need a break. And this is true. We'll get to that in just a second. Mark says a 7-day stay with the 6 in the parks and a break day to relax in the middle of the time period. And Danny, by the way, says he usually stays 7 nights with 4 park days. They like non-park days and the ability to change park days due to weather. And I'm glad you guys brought that up, because that was something where I was going with this, is you don't necessarily have to be in the parks the entire time. And again, this is where park hopping really becomes your best friend, where you can have a park experience every day, but it's not all day. And this gives you the chance to do things like Disney Springs, take advantage to do some resort hopping, go enjoy some mini golf or some other, or maybe real golf. Go play real golf. Hey, look, golf at Walt Disney World is good golf. I mean, I played Magnolia. It's a nice place. I would recommend it. But the other part of that, Mark says there's a length of a message. It's cutting him off. It is. There's a text link here. But to the point, though, you do a lot of walking. I think the average guest, something like 10 plus 7 to 10 miles a day of walking. I thought you were
going to say 7 to 10,000. I'm like, well, that's like way short, Jack.
No. 7 to 10 miles a day of walking. Especially if you're kind of really going and being active. So for me, I say, a minimum of 6. Megan, what do you think?
For my clients who come to me, usually the ones who are worried about length of stay are ones with the kids, and they're concerned about how long the kids are going to last. I hate to tell them, the parents of the kids are having just as much trouble. And yes, your feet, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter how many times I do Disney. My feet always just, they're killing me. Absolutely no less than 5. Absolutely no less than 5. And I always have the conversation, because again, they want to, how many do we really need to do it all? You can't do it all. But at a minimum of 5 days, you at least have the option to do something a second time, especially if you choose not to do park hopper. And so you've done all the parks once. A 5th day gives you that opportunity to go back and hit your favorite park again. Or like, who was it that said, was it Danny that talked about the working around the weather? If you had a bad weather day, that 5th day allows you to go back and kind of get back into a park that maybe you got hit by weather and there were a lot of things closed because of lightning in the area and that kind of thing. So absolutely no shorter than 5 days. But yes, ideally the 6 to 7 is what I typically recommend.
Yeah, and I agree with that because I think this gives you that opportunity. Now, if we're talking Universal, I think I would probably maybe go shorter by one day. I think 5 days minimum for Universal, especially now that Epic is around. Before Epic, I would have said 3 to 4. Now I'm more like 4, but really more like 5 because there's so much that goes on there. You're gonna need several days to be able to experience everything when it comes to Epic.
I agree with that. And what I think is interesting when I talk to people about Universal, one of the things we talk about is how you can't miss Volcano Bay. I don't talk to my Disney clients about missing the water parks. It doesn't matter to me if they miss those water parks.
That's
But
a good
Volcano
point.
Bay is worth a day at Universal. So yes, the longer days, it doesn't mean again, like at Disney, you're not necessarily in the parks. Don't miss out on Volcano Bay over at Universal.
Yeah, and Mark brings up a good point. Don't ever wear brand new shoes, even if they're really nice. Blisters are the quickest way to ruin a trip, and it is oh so true. If you're going to have some new tires there, some new shoes for your trip, start wearing them a month ahead of time and get those puppies broken in before you start putting a ton of your feet in those things and walking so long because you will get blisters. But to your point though, Volcano Bay, you're all right. Disney folks, I love Disney, but I'm telling you what, Volcano Bay, probably the best water park there in Orlando. Really, really excellently well done. So when you're staying at Universal, absolutely plan for a day at Volcano Bay. Trust me on this one. You will come back afterwards and went, oh my gosh, it was so awesome. Volcano Bay really is excellent. So I strongly, strongly recommend Volcano Bay. All right, Megan, what's your next one?
Lightning lanes. What? And I actually, I'm coming off a call with clients that we've talked about this extensively, and because it is a large group. And so with lightning lanes, it's not just about do we buy them or do we not buy them, but it's do we buy them for everybody? Do we buy them every day? Because you can, unlike the tickets and dining plan, with tickets and dining plan, if you're all in a room together, you all have to agree on dining plan and tickets. But lightning lanes are different. You can customize those for every single person in your group and, just kind of trade. And so there's a lot of strategy that goes back in and it gets very, very nitty gritty, complicated, all the stuff. And what usually it comes down to with the clients that I'm talking to, because I work with a lot of families, I have plenty of adults only. It's a very good conversation with them too, but the families are the ones where this gets, a little hairy, right? We're trying to figure out what we're doing. Lightning lanes, Magic Kingdom is always a must if you've got kids, because especially little ones who don't meet the height requirements in the other 3 parks, Magic Kingdom is going to be where they're going to be able to do the most, and you want to be able to do the most all of the time. Oh, yeah, don't get me started, Mark.
Yeah, I know. And Mark says my vote, eliminate all lightning lanes, make lines short again. While we can understand that just ain't gonna happen.
Oh, yeah, but Mark, yeah, great mind. Yeah, I'm with you. And so what it usually comes down to is trying to figure out who's tall enough to do the big stuff and then strategizing on, definitely Magic Kingdom. Hollywood Studios is often a yes also, unless you've got real littles because there aren't as many rides that they can get on in that park. And then Epcot and Animal Kingdom, I really don't recommend lightning lanes. Maybe one of the one for Flight of Passage, but outside of that, unless I have clients that come to me and say, "Hey, we just want lightning lanes for everything," I don't recommend.
Well, and so you bring up another point here, and this is where when I have a lot of conversation about lightning lane, the first bit I have is, well, do you really need it? Because there's plenty of times where we've been down. For instance, I go back to the summertime where it's warmer. I don't know that we never have really needed lightning lanes for many of the experiences that we want to do. Yeah, we may have an extra 10-minute wait, but even Guardians. I mean, we would move through Guardians pretty quickly, or Flight of Passage, generally okay. I mean, a little bit longer. So, but again, so some of those individual purchase lightning lanes, I think are maybe something to think about a little bit more than just the lightning lane multipass kind of thing. Mark says We usually buy an individual Lightning Lane for flight, meaning flight of passage, if the line is crazy long. Otherwise, we haven't bought anything he says NK, he means Animal Kingdom. And so, I'm kind of that way. I don't know that I've ever done Lightning Lane for Animal Kingdom. If I did, it was maybe really, really early, and it was back when it was Genie Plus, to be honest.
Now, we don't know what the timeline looks here, but in 5 years' time, are we going to be having the opposite conversation because they've blown out Animal Kingdom, they've added in Indiana Jones and Encanto?
This is a fair point.
Things. Is Disney looking at this and going, we need to add more things in here so we sell more of these Lightning Lanes over in Animal Kingdom? Because there's no way that they're selling nearly as well there as they do at the other parks.
Yeah, and Danny brings up a good point. He says Lightning Lane may be great for people who have a once-in-a-lifetime trip and want to maximize their experience in the amount of time that they're there. And that's an important observation, Danny, to bring up. Time, the whole point of why you want to use Lightning Lane is saving time. The argument that I get, not argument, but the debate that you get into sometimes with clients on any sort of travel thing of, well, which is your priority? Are you wanting to save money or are you wanting to save time? Because you can't necessarily do both. So for some people, the fact that they can, by doing Lightning Lane, can save an hour a day or 2 hours a day, that's critical to them. Other people are in a different way. Mark says, yes, I think Animal Kingdom will become much more crowded once Indiana Jones and Encanto, don't forget about the Encanto, once all that opens up. I think that will be a big deal. Also, by the way, Pandora coming to Animal Kingdom as well. So I still come back to, though, do you really need it? There have been plenty of times where I've gone down and we haven't needed it. I think with you, Megan, the Magic Kingdom is probably, to me, the number one. When you're planning your kind of like your primary day at Magic Kingdom, yeah, get that Lightning Lane. And here's another thing. You need to make this Lightning Lane decision more than a week out, because you can purchase Lightning Lanes 7 days from your arrival, all right?
If you're staying on property.
If you're staying on property, correct. If you're staying on property. If you're stopping on property, it's 3 days. But you need to make that decision before then so that you know what you want to do, because the one kicker is if you decide, you know what, I'm going to get up the next morning and I'm deciding, I'm just going to go ahead and get Lightning Lane. You can get it. You can buy it anytime you want, but there might not be much available, because if you're planning to get it to get some of the headline attractions, they may be already sold out for Lightning Lanes. They may already be booked up. So if you're going to do Lightning Lane, if you decide that you want to make that investment, you need to make that decision before 7 days in advance. Again, if you're on property, 3 days in advance if you're not staying on property, which, by the way, is another advantage of staying on property.
And just so nobody thinks that Chuck and I are unaware that there's a third option for Lightning Lanes, we haven't touched on the Premier Pass, which, while I'll admit, I have the conversation with every one of my clients, because you always want to offer, you always want to be aware of what is available. And I do have a lot of clients, usually repeat clients, who are like, I don't want to be on my phone all the time. I have had clients who have done Premier Pass. None of them have regretted it. But again, you got to have the money to do it. And whoo.
Yeah, the Premier Pass, and it's a good point. We should not ignore the Premier Pass. They're not cheap, though. And also, frankly, we've got to also talk about the other Lightning Lane out there, and that's to have a plaid, have a VIP, because, they essentially act like the same thing. And by the way, they're at all 4 parks. And so, that experience can be sometimes maybe even a better value, because to get a VIP, you have to get, I think it's a minimum of 6 hours. But it covers 10 people. Up to 10 people. So if you can get a group of 10 together, that per person cost starts to go down considerably when you compare 10 people all getting the Premier Lightning Lane passes. So,
and for people who laugh at the Premier Pass and are like, "Oh, that's just ridiculous. Nobody does that." They sold out some over Thanksgiving weekend.
They do.
People love them. I'm not saying people buy them every single trip, but I don't see nearly as many complaints about them as I think people expected when Disney first announced, and everybody went, "Are you crazy? Look at these prices."
Yeah, I think it was a bit of sticker shock at first, but again, if they're going to pay it, they'll pay it.
and not having to, make any reservations. You just buy it and then you're just good to go, and you just show up to whatever, and you just walk into those lightning lanes. The convenience and the not being on your phone, I think, clearly for a lot of guests is working really well, and they're happy with it.
Yeah, there's definitely some value to that. And, this actually leads to kind of the last question that I had prepared. And this is a question I get a lot, and it is all about money. Well, I'm looking to go probably maybe for a week. How much is it going to cost me? And the answer really is, I don't have an answer for you, because it all depends on when you want to go, how you want to go, where you want to stay, and what you plan to do. Could you do, a week at Disney for, less than $1,000 a day? Oh, and by the way, we're assuming a family of 4, for instance. Could you do that for less than $1,000 a day? Yeah, you can. Now, by the way, I'm talking lodging, tickets, dining, the whole kit and caboodle. Can you do it for that? Less than $1,000 a day? Yes, you can. Can you also do it for $5,000 a day? Easily, $10,000 a day. Drop of the hat. I mean, yes, you can. As Mark says, it can be as expensive, and I would add as inexpensive, as you want to make it. So it really kind of all depends on what you're looking to do and what you're looking to get out of this. There are plenty of ways to save money and to cut costs at Disney. We have gone and done previous shows on that, several previous shows, where we've talked about ways to save money at Disney and over at Universal. But the thing about it is that this is why we recommend working with a travel planner like Megan or like myself. We can help you navigate that and help you kind of plan out. Okay, let's get to what's your budget, and now let's get you inside that budget as best as we can. And then you may decide to change your budget if the lodging is not what you want, or the tickets are not what you want, or something like that. So, Megan, what do you get to when folks start asking about costs?
When we start talking about cost, one of the things because some people do come to me well in advance, they're like, hey, we know we can't afford it right now. We're thinking like late 2026, maybe 2027. Well, if we're looking at 2027, what I can tell you is prices are going to go up before that, because they go up every year. And so you want to book as early as you can, because you may be able to get in before those prices change. So there's always that. The earlier you book, or the earlier you start planning, the more you can budget into that. And you can kind of Disney has started sending out emails to this, because Disney has finally gotten wise to like what the rest of us have been telling our clients forever, is that you create your own payment plan. Disney now sends, if you have a Disney World vacation booked, they will send you an email that talks about payment plans. Only all they mean is you've got it booked, and so you can call in or call your travel agent once a month and say, hey, put X number of dollars down on my trip.
Right. Yeah, there is no automatic.
I've been doing that for years.
Yeah, there is no automatic payment plan currently for Disney, at least not that I have been made aware of. We haven't seen any at all. There's no automatic payment plan for Disney, unlike other areas like Royal Caribbean and other places like that, where you do have auto pay options. But again, another reason why you work with the travel planner, we can be your auto pay and can take care of all that for you, and to help you, make your trip as affordable or as grandiose and ultra luxurious as you want to make it.
One of the things around budget that I find interesting is that I'll have, and I have quite a few clients who come, they come to me, they have an idea that they want to go to Disney, but again, they haven't been there in a while, or certainly the first time visitors. And we start talking about I'm always interested in what they want out of Disney, because then we can kind of figure out what that budget will look like. Because like you said, it can be as inexpensive or as expensive as you want. So we need to know what kind of experiences are you looking for, and we can kind of guide you what kind of budget that would look like. As people are talking about like their wish list for the Disney trip, part of what Chuck and I do is the parks, the dining, the characters, they're all there. But Chuck and I know a lot of the things, and for those of you watching who are familiar, as Mark and Danny are, with the parks, there's so many other experiences that if you're new to Disney, you're unaware even exist. And yes, they come at additional costs. The dessert parties, the fireworks cruises, just also the Memory Maker, and oh my gosh, I book it every time I go. capture your moment. The photo.
Oh yeah, capture your moment, folks. In fact, we're going to do a whole show on capture your moment. I can't stress capture your moment enough. It is a game changer when it comes to family photos.
Wonderful. And so inevitably, I start having these conversations with people who thought that they were just going in for tickets and, you know, the parks themselves, and we end up talking about these other expenses or these other experiences that are added expense, and they end up increasing their budget. Maybe they push the trip back. They have to say, okay, we're gonna have to push another 6 months or so, whatever that may look like. But again, the value of your vacation. Are you putting, you know, do you need to go at your, you know, if you have a hard budget, that's one thing. But if you're able to kind of, maybe we adjust the number of days you're there so that you can experience something special, or do one of those VIP tours, or, you know, that kind of thing. And so those conversations are always fun, because I think what Chuck and I and other travel advisors are able to do are introduce new experiences that some people may not have ever thought of or even realized existed. And those are always fun to do.
Yeah, and speaking of new experiences, so Danny brings up a quick question here, and we're switching gears now. We're talking about Good Neighbor Resorts over in Disneyland. You know, and Disneyland gets a little bit different because Good Neighbor Resorts start to really...
the Drury, I have a feeling he's probably talking about Disney World, the new Drury that's been open. It's been like, what, a year or so?
Oh, yeah, no, that one. I'm thinking, because when I think Good Neighbor, I'm thinking Disneyland. And the ones on Harbor Boulevard. So no, this is Good Neighbor down that way. I haven't had a lot of experience with the Drury because, again, when I'm staying on property. So, you know, if you guys have had experiences with any of the Good Neighbors that you like, I know, Mark, you have done some of the Hiltons there down towards Disney Springs, and I've stayed at one of the Hiltons for like a single night. That was pretty awesome. By the way, Danny also says Memory Maker is a must for us, and I agree. Memory Maker is an absolute must. Yes, when folks see the initial cost, you know, it's close to $200, but, you know, it's, in my opinion, it's worth every penny, especially, again, if you're going for a week. You have access to every single Disney PhotoPass photographer that's out there, and there are hundreds of them. Oh, and by the way, you get the on-ride photos. Oh, and by the way, you get the on-ride videos. So take advantage of every one of those photographers, and just about all of them have some sort of, Disney Springs. You're right. Thanks.
Going back to the Drury real quick, I have not personally stayed there. A colleague of mine did, and she had the same feedback that I have seen from other guests. They love the hotel. They love the food options. Now, again, Drury has free breakfast. They also do, I don't know if it's like actual dinner, but it's like the appetizers. It reminds me of the concierge level stuff at Disney, where you have like apps in the evening around 5:00. I think there's a drink thrown in for the adults. To take advantage of something at 5 p.m. off property, you have to leave the parks in the middle of, like, that pains me as somebody who, you know, has to leave, doesn't want to leave the park. And,
you know, Mark brings it right there. He says the loss of the bubble makes it hard to stay off property. For me, transportation makes the on the property places easier. And you're exactly right, Megan. You're kind of leaving the bubble, and that takes time. You know, the amount of time it takes, you walk out of the turnstiles of the Magic Kingdom and start your stopwatch and turn it off the time you walk into the door of the Drury. 40 minutes, 50 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on how you're doing it. You know, and Mark says, by the way, but with an AP for free parking and points discounts, it does make off-property cheaper. It does. However, you're still dealing with your own car, and, you know, there are issues, you know, having your own car versus you using, you know, Disney, the Disney transportation. So that has kind of gotten to some of our FAQs. If you've been listening and you're listening to us on the podcast edition of this, be sure to pop your questions into the chat. And don't forget that when it comes to chats and comes to questions, we do this every Tuesday night. And in fact, coming up next week, it is open mic night. That's right. Open mic night comes up next week. So feel free to gather all those questions. If there was a question you were going to ask tonight and didn't do so, or we didn't get to it, come back and join us next Tuesday nights, the second Tuesday of the month. And so that means it's open mic night. That means you control the conversation. We talk about what you want to talk about. So be sure to join us for open mic night coming up next Tuesday here on MouseKast. I want to say a huge thank you to Megan for joining me tonight as we get into the holiday season here. Again, we hope everybody who is watching here live had a fantastic Thanksgiving. And stay with us, and we will hope to have you over here on MouseKast for next week's open mic night. MouseKast, the podcast where the mind meets the magic.
Thank you for listening to MouseKast. We appreciate the time you share with us. And tonight was a very fun show. And joining us is a must. This is where the mind meets the magic. We dive a little deeper every time. Theme parks, cruise ships, and travel. If you don't listen, maybe now it's time. Now it's